What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to give you guys my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 38 discussion. Okay, guys, this chapter was very interesting, full of mystery, and it just intrigued me a lot. So I can't wait to discuss this. It has brought some good questions here. Yeah, so it was a shorter chapter, but it does have some very interesting things in it. One thing I want to tell you guys, Monday in Japan, the latest chapter, chapter 39, will be coming out. So the Hokkaido Arc, chapter 39, will be coming out. So look for my latest updates on my Facebook page, DT Ninja 831. You can find it there. So let's get to the discussion. So I have several questions here. The first question is, why did Hyobei leave behind a deadly message that says Tenshu in blood? And the reason why I asked this question is because previous in chapter 36 we saw the government officials and the aftermath of their assassinations, right? We see them dead. We see like the crowd and the police trying to push them back. There's nothing to see here. And then there's a deadly, bloody message on the wall that says Zankan, which means behead or slay the villain. And this is kind of vigilante justice for the Kinkaku Heki, for Hyobei. And not only that, Hyobei actually writes his name in blood, stating that he's the one behind these killings. So it seems like this is vigilante justice. It seems like it's a stab at the government and the government officials. It's very interesting. But in this chapter, chapter 38, we see a very different kind of motive here. So you have Ichigawa's friends who are just leisurely walking home after drinking. Not a good idea, by the way. Especially when they said don't go out late at night. I would have just stayed at the place. But anyways, they're on their way home. They stumble across the Kinkaku Heki member Hyobei. Hyobei is there, and he asks them, "What is the true value? What is your true value? You show it to me." So he ends up murdering them. He kills them, but this is brutal. He cuts one of the guy's heads off, obviously. So I guess the Zankan thing is literal because he cut his head off. He literally cut his head off. And then the other guy, he cut his stomach out. I mean, like, he cut him in half. You can see his body dismembered on the ground. And then the message in blood, in their blood, it says Tenshu. It says heavenly punishment, divine punishment. Now, what's interesting about this is that's all it says. It doesn't say who did it. It just says divine punishment. It almost seems like a personal attack at not only the government officials, but the imperialists themselves. Because why would you put Tenshu when they know from the past that is what the Batosai used? The Batosai and the imperialists, who were the the assassins who would kill the important people, or these people that they're supposed to kill, and they just kill them, and they leave message, and it would be Tenshu. So I feel like this is a stab at the imperialists themselves, because remember, Ichigawa and his friends were like laughing it up, drinking, they were talking, and when they were complaining about the Shinsengumi, they mentioned that we're the winners, we're the imperialists who won the war, and we built this era, we built Sapporo, it's all us, it's the imperialists. So why are the losers, the Shinsengumi, kind of crowding us? Why do we have to work with them? So I feel like whoever was listening in on all of this, it's an intel leak. I feel like this is a personal attack at the imperialists, the ones who are now in the government. And obviously it's they're shady guys. Those are corrupt officials, by the way. So they got what they deserved. So this is kind of karma in a way. So that's why I feel like he used that bloody message Tenshu, because I feel like it's a personal attack. He's basically saying, don't mess with us, Especially don't mess with, the idea that you were the ones, the imperialists were the ones who created this era. It was more than that, Both sides created the era, not just one side. The winners are the ones that tell the story. However, that's not always, how it works, right? So they're basically getting what's coming to them, right? I mean, it was kind of like karma. So it's interesting, though, that they changed the motive of this of their assassinations. Like, I'm Hyobei, and I'm gonna straight up kill all of you. To, this is punishment for what you've done. So it's very interesting. Okay, number 2. Who is the one behind the leak of police intelligence? Is it Shimonji? Well, I've come to... I talked about it a little bit in my review in detail about Shimonji. So I've come to 4 possible suspects, 4 people that are possibly the ones who are leaking the information in Sapporo. 1, Abe. Because of this, we know Abe hates Saito. He hates the Shinsengumi. And what better way to get to Saito? However, he was, hired by Ichigawa, who is an imperialist. So it's a little tricky there. I don't think he's leaking information, honestly. And if he is, it's indirectly. I don't think he's doing it directly to the enemy. That's just my personal feeling. But Saito believes that there's something with him because he tells Mishima, I want you to take on this special mission, look after him, see what he's up to during the day. And what's interesting is Abe straight up tells him, yeah, go ahead, follow me. I got nothing to hide. So it's very interesting, but I feel like he's probably not the one. That's just my feeling on it. But yeah, Abe does hate him, and he does want to see the Shinsengumi lose. Yeah. Okay, number 2, Shimonji. Shimonji is the commander of the Otaru campaign. Now, Otaru is the one where Sano and Kenshin and, even Kanryu, they're all there at that campaign. That's where he was, right? And obviously, it was a big failure, right? So he failed in that campaign. It was supposed to be a riot, and they were supposed to, kind of create chaos, but Kenshin and the others kind of stopped it, so it's all good. But Shimonji failed. He failed badly, right? However, when I look at this guy in the cave, because we see the one who's actually leaking the information in the cave, he even states that they're calling in the army, which means he was there. He was watching, he was listening into that personal conversation. So we know that's the guy in the cave. He has a hood over his head. Obviously, the Kinkaku Heki usually have the hoods. So we know he's Kinkaku Heki, and he's talking to the commander in Sapporo, who is Hyobei. And what's interesting about this is he's hunched over, and he's really short. So he's a short guy. So that kind of got me thinking Shimonji could be him, because Shimonji is very short. And also, we see kind of a shadow of his face. Now, we've never seen Shimonji's face, but we've seen part of his head. So I kind of got to thinking maybe that's him. Maybe that's him. Maybe after the failed campaign, he came over, and that's him. And he even has this sinister smile on his face after they exchange the gold dust and the envelopes, the information. He has this smile on his face that's sinister. And so I saw this in chapter 31 when Sano was about to fight him, Shimonji, and he showed that same kind of grin. Because remember, Shimonji has that kind of face shield, and like his mask, all he can do, when he smiles, it really shows kind of that evil, kind of sinister look. And anyways, when he did that, I was like, oh, okay, that might be him. So I compared those. They look really similar. However, I made one crucial error, and that is the timeline, guys. At this moment right now, in the story, we are 2 weeks prior, right? So This is 2 weeks before the attack where Hyobe is fighting Saito and Nagakura. We know this is 2 weeks prior to that, right? So all of this is happening 2 weeks before that. That means in Otaru, Kenshin and Sano and Ono and Kanryu and all the others that are fighting there, they're still fighting their campaign there. So it's impossible for it to be Shimonji to be in two places at one time. And this was a huge miscalculation on my part. I really thought it was Shimonji, but then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, the chapter 36 says 2 weeks before. That means that Kenshin is not home yet. That means he's in Otaru. They're fighting the Kinkaku Heki. Sano's fighting Ono. Kanryu is fighting the other Kinkaku Heki members. So you got that. So that's why it can't be him. So I don't think it's Shimonji. I thought it was, but I made a miscalculation. So that leaves the next one, Doi, the Rock Man. And why do I say the Rock Man? Because the Rock Man kind of has that hunched over look when you see him in the cave. When he looks over and he's talking to, Hyobe. Hyobe's huge. He's like sitting in a chair. But, the hunched over figure, you can't really tell, but it kind of reminded me of Doi's look when he's talking to Byakuya. So this could be, between the time where Byakuya is still asleep. That was my thinking. But what really got me thinking is when the exchange between the gold dust, because the gold dust is kind of the payment, right? The payment that Hyobe gives him. And basically, that is when Doi gave it to the old woman of the Yaminobu. We saw the first time him using the gold dust. So that reminded me of Doi, the Rock Man, kind of the right hand of Byakuya. So he's the one possibly in the cave. And then I got to thinking, wait a minute. Is it really Doi? Is it really? Because, you look at his teeth are, jagged. It doesn't really add up. But though he does look like him when he's hunched over in the cave. So, that means it has to be an unknown. So, we've got Abe, no. We got Shimonji, no. Doi, no. So that leaves this unknown character that we've never mentioned before, and that is in Byakuya's group. Okay, remember when we first saw the Kinkaku Heki, we got Byakuya, you got Doi. I mean, he's pretty crazy, right? I mean, he looks like the Thing. He's like a rock, right? His whole face is full of rocks. And then you got the Scarred Man. He's pretty prominent. I mean, he's got a scar and he has this hatred towards Saito. So those three members are pretty memorable, right? And then you got Gongu, who has the, blonde hair and he's got the huge sword. And then there's another character that we really don't talk about that much. There's a guy who has a kendo, kind of a shinai. And he's kind of all to himself. We don't really see much of him that much. But anyways, I think his name was mentioned in one of the chapters. I can't remember it exactly because they don't really talk about him that much. But I do know he's usually shown with the Scarred Man. And we see him in chapter 35. We see him in chapter 35 when, Byakuya and the Rock Man, Doi, are talking, and he says, how's everything going at Mount Hakodate? You see Gongu, and he's yawning, and next to him, you see the guy with the shinai, kind of the weapon that he uses, and that's him. However, remember, this was 2 weeks prior to that, so maybe that's him. Maybe it's one of the members of Byakuya's group that we really don't talk about that much, that is also in Byakuya's group. Because in this chapter, at the very end, we don't see that character. He's nowhere to be found. So it makes me wonder if he's gone, if he's in Sapporo, and he's the one leaking the information. Yeah, so that's my feeling on it. I don't know his name. I think it started with an A, so you guys can refresh my memory. It's chapter 7, I believe. It's 7 or 8 where that guy's name is mentioned, but I cannot remember for the life of me what his name is. But yeah, he's got a hood over his face, and he's kind of short. He's short, just like the scarred man, but yeah, he has a shinai, a kendo stick, just like one would be who uses in a dojo. So, but anyways, that's his weapon, and that's my thinking on it. So I think it possibly could be him. Yeah, that's just my thinking. But what do you guys think? So I kind of exhausted 4 possibles there. 3 of them were no-goes, and that one is my thinking. The unknown in Byakuya's group. Because remember, when Saito is talking about Byakuya's group, we see all 5 of them in that scan. That's why I think it's one of them, because after that, he's talking about, the ones that are leaking the information, and they're pointing towards Abe, but he did mention Byakuya's group, so maybe they're giving a hint there. It's one of Byakuya's group. So that's my thinking. But anyways, yeah. Okay, guys, let's move on to the third one. The third one is about Nagakura and this mysterious person who's speaking to him. So, it is, who is speaking with Nagakura outside the window? And why is it in secret? He says these words, "It's been a while, Gamshin-san." Let me give you some context of everything. So in the hallway, we have Saito and Mishima, and they're talking. And remember how Saito is giving Mishima a special mission to follow Abe. Abe says, "I welcome it." They're in the hallway. So, Abe's walking away. So they're not in the room. And Nagakura mentions this. They're not in the room. Don't worry. You don't have to sneak around anymore. Just come out. So we know Nagakura is not speaking to them. We know it's someone else. So who is this mysterious person outside his window? He says, Gamshin-san. Those are words that only someone in the Shinsengumi would know, because that is a nickname that Nagakura was given during the Shinsengumi. And guess who gave it to him? Sanosuke Harada. Yes, he gave him that nickname. So obviously, it's not Harada, but that would be an interesting twist, but it's definitely not him, because that's too formal, Gamshin-san, because remember, he just used to call him Gamshin. So, but anyways, who is it? Who is this mysterious person outside his window? Like I said, san means that the person is younger than him. So it could be another official. It could be someone that was a former Shinsengumi, that just remembers him, and now he works for the government. We know that Saito mentioned that most of the samurai who are now working for the government, the former samurai are now in the government. Many samurai became government officials. So that's very possible. Now, but who could it be of the Shinsengumi? I got to thinking, we know all of the captains for the most part, right? We learned the 8th captain, in the previous chapter, right? We learned that because we learned Heisuke, was Nagakura's best friend, one of his best friends, and he was the 8th captain, right? He was one of the missing ones that we never heard about in the original Kenshin. The other captain missing is the 9th captain, and this guy's name is Suzuki Mikisaburo. And this guy, it's very interesting. He actually was Shinsengumi, but he quit the Shinsengumi and joined the Kodaiji party. Now, Kodaiji is another name for that temple that the rival of the Shinsengumi. Remember, the whole thing with the Abara no Koji incident was because another faction was formed in the Goryo Eiji. Now that is the Goryo Eiji. Kodaiji is another name for Goryo Eiji. So he joined the Goryo Eiji. He joined the Kodaiji party. So that's an interesting thing. And he doesn't like the Shinsengumi. So originally he was Shinsengumi, but then he quit the Shinsengumi. So another one of those, right? And in the real account, after the war, after the Bakamatsu, he bumped into Nagakura in Tokyo. This is very interesting because apparently Nagakura was hiding out in Tokyo. So he has this hatred towards him. He doesn't attack him or anything, but there's kind of resentment towards Nagakura and the Shinsengumi. So it's very interesting, but I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute, he bumped into him? That's very similar to what we have here, an encounter between old friends possibly, or even comrades. So I thought about it and I was like, what if it's actually Suzuki, the captain of the 9th Squad, who is now a official, okay? And in the real account, he becomes a police inspector. So that is something interesting to think about. It could be him, I don't know. Right? Because I think Nagakura is actually a government official himself, because obviously how did he get Anji out of jail? You know, he's got some special pardon for him. You know, he's got some special kind of deal with Anji, obviously. And remember when Byakuya was mentioning about, you know, the combat field experiments and all the training, and he went to as far to say the Meiji government might be able to do something for you. That suggests that he works for the government. And also, Sojiro stated that, are you a government official? Are you working for the government? And he kind of sneered. So I feel that they both work for the government, whoever that is. But I think it could be Captain Suzuki, Mikisaburo, the missing captain of the Shinsengumi. Now it is interesting that that hatred is there, because then we have the other mystery of that scarred man. So yeah, that's interesting, if that's some truth to that. But yeah, that's my feeling on that. Number 4, what does Hyobe look like under the mask? Because we know he is the bearer of death. We see like these lights shining through his eyes, but what does he look like? If he has these eyes that shine, you know, forward and go through the mask. I mean, they're going through the mask. So, I mean, like, at first I was thinking maybe that was kind of like the Shino Ippo, and I mentioned that before, but maybe it's something else. But the Bearer of Death, what does he look like? Is he young? I don't think so, because he mentioned the Hakodate War, the Battle of Hakodate, and that the imperialists, they're making the same mistake over again. They're making the same mistake. They're taking numbers and they're trying to overwhelm their opponent instead of using strategy. So Hyobe seems to be very wise. He might be older. He might be an older man. I don't know. But he's very strong. I just have a feeling he's strong. We saw him fighting against Nagakura and Saito, so we have an idea. But what does he look like underneath? Does he have scars? Like I said, young, old, very interesting. Yeah, so I'm very curious about that. What do you guys think? And where did he learn to use dual wielding? Because dual wielding is very, very unique. You know, unique. It's a unique style of swordsmanship where you use 2 swords rather than 1. So obviously he had some kind of training to someone who uses it. And where did he learn it? Who did he learn it from? That's a very interesting question to think about. Number 5, how did Koro know that Kenshin is at Shiori Zaka? Yes. Koro is the old man. So remember in this chapter, the scarred man, he's pissed off as all hell. He says, damn it, Saito isn't here. He was here, but he left for Sapporo. Well, when he says he was here, the old man mentions that, yeah, Kenshin and the others are at Shiori Zaka. How does he know where Kenshin is? This is what got me thinking a little bit, because Koro is the old man. We learned that in this chapter. But for him to know that, that means that their encounter with the trio, we're talking about Asahi, Aran and Ashitaro, when he met them on the street, in Hakodate, I think it was on the slope. It was Hachimanzaka Slope. It's a very famous place in Hakodate. But anyways, they were there and they met by chance. That old man seemed very, very kind to Asahi. She was very kind back to him. It seemed like maybe they know each other. I don't know, but they both. She was like, where is Shiori Zaka? She said that to him. And what's interesting about that, he said, where is Shirio Kaku? So they both had a question to each other, and I got to thinking, one of them is Kinkaku Heki, right? And one of them is former Yami Nobu, because obviously he figured it out just by looking at her that she's with Kenshin and that group. So by giving him that information, he knows the location where Kenshin is. I got to thinking and I was like, man. And Asahi was supposed to work for the Kinkaku Heki. Remember, that next mission after the whole Shishio faction ended, after that whole thing with Ashitaro, after that she went to, the Akabeko, and when they handed her that envelope, it had the words Kenkaku on it, which means Kinkaku Heki. So her next mission was for the Kinkaku Heki, and finding Kaoru's father, so maybe he recognized her face. It's something to think about. Okay, the last one. Better watch your back. The assassins are not your only enemy. Okay, so this question is like this. Does Abe know the identity of the mysterious scarred man or even other enemies of Saito? I would say it's possible because think about it. He's a government official. And remember what I said about Captain Suzuki, the one who's the ninth captain of the Shinsengumi. He also has hatred towards the Shinsengumi Saito Nagakura. So right there, I do believe he knows other enemies or other people that hate Saito. Does he know the identity of the Scarred Man? The Scarred Man who absolutely hates Saito. We see him towards the end of the chapter. It's possible. It's possible. But I don't know exactly. Because it did show that he did say the assassins are not your only enemy. And remember, they made a point to say that he's not one of them. He's not one of them. He's not a Kinkaku Heki. He joined them. He's from the outside. So technically, he's not really an assassin like them. He wasn't born into the, the actual clan. So that's interesting, but I just wanted to point it out there. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of my discussion, guys, because you know that, Scarred Man is considered, to be born from a foreign land. He's an oddball. So it's very interesting. He's even called the new guy. So I'm very interested to learn who that is and how he got the scar. Did he get it from Saito? And yeah, so anyways, guys, that's my discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed. Look forward to chapter 39. It will be coming soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.